Hi, my name is Gabrielle Bruce, and this is my Bio 162 lab video talking about new muscles and the rotator cuff. So when I approach figuring out the action of a new muscle, I like to first find the muscle on my own body and then identify the different actions that it can perform. I wanted to demonstrate how I prefer to learn new muscles with an example of the trapezius muscle. We learned from this week's module that the trapezius is a large, flat, triangular muscle that includes a superior, middle, and inferior region that all associate with different actions. When the superior portion of the trapezius contracts, it elevates or upwardly rotates the scapula to extend the neck. The middle portion of the trapezius adducts or retracts the scapula. And finally, the lower or inferior section of the trapezius pulls the blade down towards the spine. Here's an example of me demonstrating the elevation of the upper part of the trapezius. Here's an example of adduction in the middle portion of the trapezius, where you can see the blade being pulled closer to the spine. And lastly, this is a demonstration of the lower portion of the trapezius, where you can see the shoulder blade being pulled down towards the spine. This week we learned about the 4 rotator cuff muscles, which work together to pull the head of the humerus against the glenoid cavity. This includes the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, and subscapularis. The first muscle is the supraspinatus. The supraspinatus is a cylindrical muscle that sits in a depression with a medial attachment point on the supraspinatus fossa of the scapula and a lateral attachment point on the greater tubercle of the humerus. The second muscle is called the infraspinatus, which is a triangular muscle that sits in a depression. It has a medial attachment point on the infraspinous fossa of the scapula and a lateral attachment point on the greater tubercle of the humerus. The third muscle is called the teres minor, which is a flattened small triangular muscle with a medial attachment point on the lateral border of the scapula and a lateral attachment point on the greater tubercle of the humerus. Lastly, the subscapularis is a flat triangular muscle with a medial attachment point on the subscapular fossa and a lateral attachment point on the lesser tubercle of the humerus. Now I'm going to demonstrate and explain each of these muscles' actions. The action of the supraspinatus is abduction of the arm. If the supraspinatus is injured, the arm will not be able to abduct. Here's a demonstration of abduction using the supraspinatus muscle. The action of the infraspinatus is external rotation of the shoulder joint. If it's injured, it will be difficult or not possible to rotate externally at the shoulder joint. The action of the teres minor muscle is similar to the infraspinatus because when they contract, they both work to externally rotate the humerus at the shoulder joint. Here's a demonstration where I'm showing what external rotation of the shoulder joint looks like, pretending that the hairbrush is a weight. And you can see the lateral rotation as I'm moving away from the midline of the body. Lastly, the action of the subscapularis muscle is medial rotation of the arm. The subscapularis is the strongest and most used muscle out of all of the 4 rotator cuff muscles. It is also the one anterior muscle, whereas the other 3 are posterior. Here's a demonstration of the subscapularis muscle contracting. You can see that when it contracts, it internally or medially rotates the glenohumeral joint and comes in towards the body. To conclude, the rotator cuff muscles are important because they contract and prevent the sliding of the head of the humerus, which allows full range of motion and provides stability. Therefore, they help to hold the humerus in place so that it doesn't pop out of its socket.